Hi everyone, welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert K. Sarkos is your usual suspect. I hope you've had a wonderful week. Welcome back from all that midweek action from the UEFA Champions League, the UEFA Europa League, and the UEFA Conference League. There, Chelsea beating up against Astana by 3-1, while in the Europa League, Manchester United did beat up against Victoria Pilsen by 2-1 in what I thought wasn't a very convincing performance for my test. I thought there was a lot lacking for that game. They did lack pace. They lacked that tenacity that they've shown in their recent games. I thought that the energy was really low in the game. Overall, Man United didn't play well to my test in terms they were not impressive. But that won't matter much. But they did win that game by 2-1. Of course, Andre Onana there being the culprit in giving away a loose pass that led to Victoria Pilsen taking the lead, while Rasmus Højlund stepped up to score the equalizer and eventually the winning goal as he picked a double in that particular game. And then Tottenham Hotspurs did share the spoils with Rangers, I think in a 1-1 draw there, while back in the UEFA Champions League, Aston Villa were 3-2 winners there. Arsenal beating up against AC Monaco by 3-0. Bukayo Saka with the brace in that one. You had Liverpool winning against Girona by 0-0. Mohamed Salah's penalty and all that kind of thing. Barcelona impressively beating up against Borussia Dortmund by 3-2, just as much as Madrid had beaten up against Atlanta there. Those were entertaining fixtures. I saw PSG back to winning ways there to sort of brighten their chances of at least qualifying for the knockout stages of the UEFA Champions League. Bayern Munich scoring 5 there in their UEFA Champions League game and all that. I do hope you enjoyed it all. Anyways, our focus does turn to match day 16 of the Premier League, and unfortunately this weekend, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, we will have no usual early kickoff, the one of 3:30 p.m. or 2:30 p.m. depending on the timelines there. So games do kick off at 6 p.m. that is on Saturday, so you have the opportunity to rearrange your schedules to match the kickoff time so that you do not miss out on any action. So without wasting any further ado, here is the run of fixtures that will be coming your way on match day 16. That is on Saturday, Sunday until Monday, when Bournemouth face it off with West Ham. So, action, like I said, at 6 p.m. you have a couple of games in there. About 4 games starts on Saturday. Arsenal do host Everton, while Wolverhampton Wanderers, with their bad form, will be at home against Ipswich Town. Newcastle entertain Leicester City at St James's Park, while Liverpool will be at home against Fulham. Nottingham Forest will be at home against Aston Villa. That is at 8:30 p.m. to complete Saturday's action. While on Sunday or Super Sunday, we do have plenty of action. Brighton and Hove Albion at home against Crystal Palace at the Amex Stadium. That game will come to you at 5 p.m. East African time. And then at 7:30 p.m. we'll have the biggest game of the weekend when we watch the Manchester Derby, Man City versus Manchester United. I mean, I do not think there is any better time for Man United to play Man City at this time, and neither would there be a better time for Man City to play Man United. We'll get time and look at that game in depth. I do hope to have an interview with somebody, so do keep an eye for that on the channel so that you do not miss out on it. I'm really looking forward to that interview there. And then Southampton will come against Tottenham Hotspurs still on Sunday at 10 p.m. East African time, while Chelsea at the same kickoff time will be up against Brentford. Very entertaining London derby there to look forward to. And then on Monday Night Football, Bournemouth will be at the Vitality Stadium to host Julian Lopetegui's West Ham. By the way, West Ham did beat up against Wolverhampton Wanderers, I think on Monday night there by 2-1. So, yeah. So that's the action that will be coming your way on match day 16 as far as the Premier League is concerned. Do let me know what your predictions are for all those games. Do let me know what your thoughts are, where they lie. Of course, we're going to be looking at a couple of games in depth there to see where your team stand, to see what's the news in camp. where the opportunities lie for those of you that do love betting tips. And they're not so much as betting tips, but they're actually predictions, because yes, sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. That's the nature of predictions. So we'll kick things off at the Emirates Stadium, where Arsenal will host Everton. Now, this is a very, very good fixture to look forward to. Of course, Arsenal come into this particular fixture on the back of winning against Monaco by 3-0. Those two goals scored by Bukayo Saka and another by Kai Havertz. I mean, that ball does take a deflection from a defender before it hits at the back of the net. In a game that I thought Arsenal could have scored 6 or 7 goals, they had about 4 goalkeeper to beat opportunities there. Martin Odegaard firing wide of the mark, Gabriel Jesus forcing the goalkeeper into 2 saves, and I think the other opportunity did fall to Gabriel Martinelli, if I'm not mistaken. So it was a very entertaining game, very, very quite impressive. You did think that at some moment into the second half, before Mikel Arteta made his substitutions that saw, I think, the coming goal of Jorginho, Arsenal had started conceding so many spaces. There's a point where Martin Odegaard, conceded possession, and Arsenal were almost caught on the break. So, I mean, it's that game that you did see a bit of tired bodies, at least in my view. Martin Odegaard didn't look at that he was at the top of his game. Gabriel Jesus, I mean, yes, he did provide the assist for the first goal, but the chances he missed. I mean, we cannot stress this any further of how Arsenal really need a top striker, because on the 3 opportunities that fell in his path, you bet that a striker, a typical 9, would have at least converted one. Not that they do not miss chances, but at least you fancy them to convert at least one of those. And if you look at Arsenal's results this season, you could see so many results that could where the difference would have been that top striker, an Alexander Isak, a Benjamin Sesko, a Victor Gyokeres, a player in that stature. When you go back to that Fulham game over the weekend, where they did share the spoils in a 1-1 draw, disappointingly, I mean, there's a moment there that Kai Havertz, slices that ball to the near post and just wide of the target. I mean, that top striker can oftentimes make the difference. We've seen it time and again, at least for teams that have won trophies. We've seen it with Braut Erling Haaland at Man City. We've seen Victor Gyokeres do it with Sporting Lisbon. We've seen it with Kylian Mbappe do it at PSG. Yes, he's still trying to find his best footing at Real Madrid and that kind of thing. We've seen what Mo Salah, although not typically a striker, what he does for that Liverpool side. We've seen what Nicholas Jackson is doing at Chelsea. Not that he's the best of strikers, but just to point out these kinds of things. As far as Arsenal versus Everton goes, the last 5 meetings have not been a fair fight, really. Arsenal have won 4 of those, Everton winning just 1. It was a 1-0 victory for Everton. But during those 5 fixtures, Arsenal have scored 12 goals and Everton have scored just 4. So it tells you the kind of fixture it is. Not that it is an easier fixture for Arsenal, but it is one that they've won on more occasions than not. They've not been any draws in those previous meetings. And overall, there's about 64 Premier League meetings. You will see that there's just been 14 draws, 12 wins for Everton, and about 38 for Arsenal. So it's a fixture that they do dominate. Usually they find a bit of struggles when they host them at the when Everton hosts the fixture at Goodison Park, even when Arsenal sometimes manages to grind out a result. But this time around, the game is at the Emirates Stadium. And as far as recent form goes, Arsenal have won 3 of their last 5 fixtures and drawn 2, the 2 draws coming up against Fulham and the other against Chelsea. Everton, on the other side, as far as their last 5 fixtures go, they have 1 win in 5. They've drawn 2, they've lost 2. Those losses coming up against Manchester United in a 4-0 loss and a 1-0 loss against Southampton. Their victory was a 4-0 victory against Wolverhampton Wanderers. So They've struggled really for form this season. They've managed to win only 3 games. They've managed 5 draws and 6 losses. So Sean Dyche's team has not really been in the best of form this season, and they do come up against an Arsenal side who we are struggling, who, despite their recent form, we still struggle to understand what team is going to fare out there. Is it going to be the dull Arsenal that wants to win by goal to nil or 2-0? Or is it going to be the dominant, entertaining Arsenal that beat up against West Ham by 5-2? You sort of, they've become that team. You never know what kind of team is going to fare out there. Now, one of the reasons for that is because of their recent record with injuries. As we speak today, a good number of players are in doubt. Ricardo Carafiori, Gabriel Magalhaes. Then you do have, of course, Ben White is out. Takahiro Tomiyasu is out. Alexander Zichenko is out. We came into the game against Monaco when Thomas Partey was a doubt just as much as Urian Timber. Urian Timber had to come off the bench. There, we did see Miles Lewis Kelly start that game at left back. By the way, he did have a very impressive game, at least I thought so. He provided the pre-assist in the build-up to Arsenal's first goal. That's for the 18-year-old. So, Everton on the other side, they do not have so many excuses as far as injuries are concerned, but they do struggle to create goal-scoring opportunities or chances for their striker there in Dominic Calvert-Lewin, the likes of Beto, Dwight McNeil. He struggled to find form. Abdrai Diakore, things have not really clicked for them. James Tarkowski in defense there has not been very impressive in recent times. I think Michael Keane is back there in the squad. I do not know whether he will feature in this particular one, but it does give them a defensive boost. Nyakalenko there at left back. Of course, Ashley Young in that team, he did score a free kick, I think, against Wolverhampton Wanderers a couple of games back. So then Idris Gana Gueye in that midfield. But regardless, as a team, as a whole, they've really kind of struggled for form. Versus United, they played well, but the scoreline really doesn't say that. I do understand that, but they had a good game until that point when they conceded sorry, and then the game just went away from them. Then because it was 2-0 at halftime, and early into the second half, they conceded that goal from Marcus Rashford. It just wasn't a good game overall. So they will need to pull up their stockings coming in for this one, because I do believe, given what's at stake, I just watched an interview that Mikel Arteta did, I think, with Sky Sport. There he was talking about what is really required for his team, that they really do need to win a trophy to sort of lift up the mood, the spirits, the belief in that team that they can go beyond just being competitors to actual champions. So, given what this game really means, and Chelsea has opened up a gap there ahead of them in second place. Liverpool is already ahead of them. Liverpool didn't play last weekend. That they had their Merseyside derby postponed due to strong winds there in the Merseyside. But so my prediction here is a 3-1 victory for Arsenal. That is what I'm going with. Yes, I know I got it wrong against Fulham, because I predicted that they would beat up against Fulham, but that ended in a draw. My hope is that they're going to beat up against Everton at least by 3 goals to 1 or with nil. So do let me know what your thoughts are on that particular fixture. Moving on to the next fixture, allow us to briefly look at Liverpool versus Fulham, a very, very entertaining game that we do expect at Anfield. I believe Liverpool are fairly well rested for this particular fixture, despite their travels against Girona in the UEFA Champions League, because last weekend they didn't play. They had their game postponed against Everton. So you do feel that gave them a bit of a breather, although it does schedule a fixture for them very soon around the corner to have that game, rescheduled. So they do first off with a stubborn Fulham, who have won 2 and drawn 2 of their last 5 games and lost 1. that loss being a 4-1 loss to Wolverhampton Wanderers, the draws coming up against Arsenal in a 1-1 draw, and I think the other being a 1-1 draw against Tottenham Hotspurs. In their victories, they've managed to beat up against Brighton and Hove Albion by 3-1 and did beat up against Crystal Palace by 2-0. So we're talking about a Fulham side who, by the way, went to Anfield, I think back in 2021 and beat Liverpool by 1-0. So while Liverpool have won 3 of the last 5 meetings between the two sides, Fulham have managed that one victory and the other was a draw as far as the last 5 meetings are concerned between these two sides. But Fulham do face off with one of the most on-form teams in Europe, if not the most actually, because they have 6 wins in the UEFA Champions League. They are unbeaten. Back in England, I mean, they're just impressive. They've drawn 2 games, they've lost 1. Draw against Arsenal and Newcastle, which was their very last Premier League game, that 3-3 draw last week in the mid of the week. And then they have as many as 11 victories in the Premier League. So you have a Mo Salah in there who is at the top of his game this season. It's like he's been reborn, like he's a 25-year-old, already has 13 goals in the Premier League and 8 assists there. He did score in the UEFA Champions League, that only penalty that they got against Girona that won them all 3 points to retain that top spot at the UEFA Champions League summit in that league format. So clearly, Fulham are going to be facing a very, very, strong Liverpool side, who, by the way, yes, they do have some injuries to contend with, some doubts there. Of course, Federico Chiesa, Diogo Jota, you do have Ibrahim Konate, Conor Bradley, and Timmy Castilla as the doubts there for Liverpool, while Joachim Anderson, Reece Nelson, and Harrison Reed are the doubts there for Fulham. We did see the kind of game that they brought against Arsenal. Not that it was very, very impressive, but they managed to frustrate Arsenal into a draw. When they lose badly. When they come for a game, they really can't give you trouble. They can't really give you hard time. Adama Traore there, very, very stubborn guy. Emil Smith-Rowe, only that Reece Nelson is absent, but the goalkeeper in Baden Leno is not that bad. You do have Basse in that defense. He was really, really a force against Arsenal. Defensively, did put up quite a good fight. Then Raul Jimenez at leading that forward line, he did score that goal against Arsenal. So Fulham can be a really stubborn side, but my gut feeling says that Liverpool are going to win this game. It could be a 3-1 or a 4-1 victory for the Reds there. I do fancy Cody Gakpo, Luis Diaz, Mo Salah, to turn things on. Darwin Núñez, McAllister, to turn the heat on. And then I do expect Virgil van Dijk to lead that back line, of course, and alongside Gomez in that centre back. Alson Ramsey-Baker is back from injury, so yeah, I do really think that they will go on to win this particular game. It will be with a bit of pressure. Why? Because Chelsea are really closing the gap on them. They didn't play last weekend, so yes, they do have a game in hand, but they want to keep a healthy point gap between themselves and their chasers in second, third, and fourth places respectively on that Premier League table. And then allow us to cross into Super Sunday, where Chelsea will entertain Brentford. Now, this is a very interesting game, and the reason as to why I do pick up on it is because Chelsea have not beaten Brentford in their last 5 meetings. As a matter of fact, there have been 4 victories, I think, for Brentford and 1 draw there. Now, it goes without saying that perhaps the last 2 seasons, Chelsea has not been the Chelsea that we are seeing this season, of course, or the one that we had known seasons earlier than that. But make no mistake, this is a London derby for starters. Brentford is one of those stubborn sides that do want to put on a show against the big teams, the likes of Yohan Wissa, Brian Mbeumo, they really, Christian Nogard, they really like to put on a show. That goalkeeper in Mark Flacken in that Brentford goal. These are all, very, very good players, that can give you trouble on a given day. But we're talking about a Chelsea side also that is in immaculate form. They're winning their games. I mean, they've won 4 of their last 5 Premier League games, uh, just recording a draw against Arsenal, which is clearly understandable. They're winning in the UEFA Conference League there. They are scoring goals. They just beat up against Tottenham Hotspurs by 4 goals to 2, coming from 2 goals down. Marco Cucurella with a game to remember and to forget at the same time, because his 2 slip-ups led to Tottenham scoring. Cole Palmer there on scoring from the spot twice. They're a well-coached team. They're in a good field moment. They're scoring goals. Enzo Fernandez is on the form of his life ever since joining Chelsea. Moises Caicedo in that midfield, things are really ticking for him. Romeo Lavia there, who they did sign from Southampton. Now you really understand why they had to beat Liverpool to his signature and all those kinds of things. Christopher Nkunku, oftentimes coming off the bench to, make things happen. Nicholas Jackson. All these are players that are in decent run of form as far as, things go. Levi Colwill in that defense. I mean, regardless of the player they field, they are just winning games. They are just impressive. Enzo Maresca is doing a lot of good things. And that's one of the things I want to explore further in regards to what he's done right. He had a lot of uncalled for media attention when he came into Chelsea, especially after preseason, made the rules, said, yes, we do have a lot of players, but those that are not wanted have been told. Those that included Raheem Sterling went to seek greener pastures elsewhere since joined Arsenal, and things have not really worked for him at Arsenal because, he barely plays. And he's just oftentimes on the bench. So now we really understand why he made those difficult decisions, and they are paying off. So the way the manager rotates his team, it's not hard to predict a Chelsea starting 11, but it's also, every time it's rotated, you understand that Jordan Sancho would come and have a good game, and then maybe next game they're thinking, we're giving Noni Madueke the opportunity because he's done well in training, and he comes and, puts on a good performance. Maybe Mikhail Mudryk does deserve it. The likes of Renato Viega, who normally play in the UEFA Conference League. Mark Gui, he did score in that fixture against Astana. So this is a very good Chelsea side. Yes, they do have their injuries, but you even hardly remember that they do have those injuries. I mean, when was the last time you discussed Ben Chilwell? When Richie James, may as well join the squad of team doctors at Chelsea because he's almost always injured. He comes, plays 1 game, 1.5 games, and is back again. But they do not miss him, and yet he's the team captain. So clearly, a lot of things are going right there. So, and then we do have the Manchester Derby. Man City have won 1 game in the last 10, 7 losses and 2 draws. The draw coming against Crystal Palace and against Feyenoord in the UEFA Champions League. In there, they have losses to Brighton, they have losses to Bournemouth, they have losses to Tottenham Hotspurs, they have losses to Juventus in the UEFA Champions League. Pep Guardiola has never been in this position before for all the 17 years of his career. So how does he bounce back? Does he have the potential to bounce back? No doubt. I have zero doubt about that. Yes, he's never been in this moment before. And he's probably also wondering, how did we get here? Yes, they have injuries, but they are not playing like a Pep Guardiola team. You get that sense. There's a way players are sluggish. I did watch a clip of Ilkay Gundogan running back in that game. And of course, he's not the Ilkay Gundogan of 3 years ago. He doesn't have that energy. Kevin De Bruyne still retains his brilliancy, but the goal scorer in Erling Haaland has also lost that bit of sharpness and ruthlessness. Phil Foden, where's he? Nobody's discussing him. I've seen one too many times when it comes to a conversation with, I think, about Arsenal. I've seen people make comments of, if you think Arsenal is a very good side, name one Arsenal player that would walk into that Manchester City side and start. And oftentimes, for whatever their reasons are, Bukayo Saka has been the name, highlighted, and it has been said that he would start, that he couldn't even start against ahead of Jack Grealish or Jeremy Doku. So maybe he wouldn't. But the question at this moment, when Man City are having all things not going their way, where are those players? Where's Jack Grealish? Where's Jeremy Doku? Why are they not stepping up to salvage the reputation of Man City when things are not going on? Right. Over the last couple of years, again in comparison, Bukayo Saka has been one of those players that has, carried Arsenal by his shoulders. He did, move into the team and played at left back, did not complain. He moved forward and, scored the goals, provided the assists that literally kept Arsenal going. When you look at his numbers this season, I think he has 10 Premier League assists and 5 goals in there. He has about a 21 goal involvement or 22 thereabout in all competitions this season. So for all the things that Arsenal have lacked this season in terms of their fluidity, their very entertaining football, especially in the absence of Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka has been that kind of player that continues to lift his side. Of course, in addition to the set piece coach, Nicolas Jova, who has really coached them well to go ahead and find that as a very good channel for, goals to carry them forward. But, so my question is, where's Bernardo Silva, to step up, rise to the occasion? All these senior players, Kyle Walker, so you look at the whole team and it's like they've lost that belief, they've lost that do or die belief, they've lost that belief of regardless of what happens, we can go ahead and win a difficult game. You no longer see it, and yet they do have the players, I think, because when you look at their players, pound for pound, you find these are very good players, for many of whom you may not even compare them to most in the Premier League. As far as Man United versus Man City is concerned, it's not even a fair fight when you go to, squad quality, when you go to what they've been able to achieve in the last 5 years. It's not even a fair fight. And yet we do come in this particular fixture, and on paper, when you reflect back in the last 10 games across all competitions, Manchester United are the ones in better form. Of course, the Premier League table does say otherwise, because Man United do languish in 13th, and Man City are in the top 5. So, but all that notwithstanding, when you do look at this particular fixture, it does come at a very interesting moment in time. Man United, 2 losses on the spin in the Premier League. That's against Arsenal and against Nottingham Forest last weekend. Man City on the other side beat up against Nottingham Forest and then drew against Crystal Palace and went and lost to Juventus, while Manchester United were beating up against Victoria Pilsen by 2-1. So there's a contrast in form across all competitions when you compare the two teams, but it doesn't make it lesser of a derby. It's a big game, the first Manchester derby for Ruben Amorim. Man City are struggling, and I think this would be the perfect time for Manchester United to go in for it, to go ahead and beat Man City. It would send a strong message. It would give them a lot of belief in the manager, given that he's still new. It would give players a lot of belief that they can, go toe-to-toe with Man City, and if they can beat Man City, then they can beat up against any other team in the Premier League and push for that top 4 finish at least. If it's to be the bare minimum this season, this is a game that has a lot going for it. And then if a Man City beat up against Manchester United and bounce back, this could be the time for Pep. This could be the match that leads Pep Guardiola and his Man City side to bounce back. Because, like I said, sometime this week, even with all their poor form, the third place Arsenal is only ahead of them by 2 points. You get? So that's not too big a point difference for them to cover, because the nature of the Premier League is that you go on a winning run of 3-4 games, and all of a sudden you've been closer to relegation and more closer to the top four than the relegation, and things have really changed really fast for you. So my mind is yet to formulate a prediction for this particular game. I do sense that it could end in a draw. Not that it is a result I would desire, but I mean, Man United, step up, win this game, beat up against Man City, who, by the way, you've only beaten once in the last 5 games. That's as far as the Premier League is concerned. Yes, you did beat Man City. By the way, you did beat Man City in the finals of the FA Cup last season to win that trophy. So this is a team you have the potential to beat. You know how to beat them. You've done it before. You can't do it again. But as far as the Premier League is concerned, Man City has beaten up against Manchester United 4 times in their last 5 meetings. That is why I said that in recent times, it's not been a fair fight. It's one that Man City has always dominated. But do let me know what your thoughts are. For now, my prediction is a draw. Could be 1-1, 2-2, thereabout. Do let me know what your thoughts are. If you're new, kindly subscribe to the channel so that we can continue to grow. Do not forget to comment, like, and share. And I'll see you next time. Stay blessed and have a wonderful weekend.